Welcome to BS DraftCast. We are Brandon and Steven, and we are going to be diving right into day one through 16 picks. This is going to be a trade draft whatsoever. So 1 through 32, we might do second round, third round, fourth round. It all depends on what we feel, what we see, what have you. Like I said, this we will be on PFF. Their rankings are kind of crap, so we're going to pick the players that we think are best fit for each team by our thoughts. We're no professional by any means. This is just for fun, as we stated before, and let's dive right into it. Steven, I hope you're ready. I think this is going to be a good time, good fun run, and let's have fun with it.
Oh yeah, man. No, I'm excited, man. Get these 1 through 16 done, and just kind of see what picks we got.
All right, so round one, no, round one, pick number one, Chicago Bears. I truly believe we have a front runner right out the gate, and I do believe it's either Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. I know we've talked about this in the past, but I think they could look for their Khalil Mack and Will Anderson, but I think they also could go with Jalen Carter in the interior defense. But the question is with his recent arrest, if you want to call it arrest, a misdemeanor. He was in jail for 16 minutes. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do believe it was a mistake. I don't condone when he did by any stretch of the means. But barring his arrest, I feel that he is the most athletic player in this draft on defense, offense, what have you. What are your thoughts on this number one pick with the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, man, I agree. I think it really comes down to these two being like a no trade draft. I think for the Chicago Bears, it really comes down to, do you want that edge presence in Will Anderson? Do you want that guy up front who's absolutely dominant in Jalen Carter? I mean, I don't think you can really go wrong with either guy, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, like we said, being a no trade, I think that you have to, if you're the Chicago Bears, I know you want to find that Khalil Mack again, but I feel that you have to go with the best talent in the draft, and that's Jalen Carter. So I think we lock Jalen Carter into this number one spot here. On to number two, the Texans. We all know Davis Mills is not the guy that they thought he was, or if they even did think he was. I'm not sure. But I think Bryce is a clear cut number one quarterback coming into this draft. Anthony Richardson, who we will talk about in the near future, definitely solidified his spot in the talks of could he be that second quarterback off the board. But right now, I think Bryce Young is the clear cut. Um, there are some concerns at 5'10", and I'm not just saying that being a Bama fan, you're a Bama fan. I'm not just saying that he's a clear cut because we are Bama fans. I think that he is the most well rounded quarterback in this draft that could put the Texans have their franchise quarterback in Bryce Young. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that as well. I think Bryce Young has all of the intangibles that you need in a quarterback. I think that people are taking his size and blowing out of proportion a little bit. I get the concern, but I mean everything he has between the ears, his body of work, his ability to, escape the pocket, make plays on the run. He can pretty much do everything. He can make all the throws. Very intelligent. I think that Bryce Young, to me, is the best quarterback in this draft, regardless of his size and all that.
That what you just said right there was like the perfect the what Bryce Young is. He can escape the pocket. He can make all the throws. He can throw the deep ball. He can throw those tight window balls. I mean, I think that's a perfect analogy or analysis, I should say, regarding Bryce. Like I said, it's not us being biased as Bama fans. I just think that he proved it in college. He showed it in college, and I think the Texans take Bryce here at number two.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think that a lot of people they're worried about him not being able to see over his offensive linemen and stuff. But I mean, he played for Alabama. It's not like he just, they're J.C. Latham. It doesn't really get much taller than him. Like he can see over his offensive line.
Right.
He didn't really get banged up in college. I don't want to jinx him or anything. I don't want him to get hurt, but he didn't really get banged up in college. He could see over his offensive line. I feel like he goes through his progressions well. I think that he's got to be the pick.
I agree 100%. We'll lock Bryce Young into number 2 and move on to the Cardinals. Um Tell me what your thoughts with the Cardinals go with here. I'm doing a lot of the first person talking. I want you to give me a little insight on what you think pick number 3 will be with the Cardinals.
My pick three with the Cardinals hasn't really changed much. I think the Cardinals, we've talked about this. The Bears, we think they're gonna trade down, right? But this being a no trade draft that we're doing, I think that Will Anderson ends up with the Cardinals. I think Will Anderson from Alabama ends up with the Cardinals, no doubt about it. They've been looking for that edge rusher for quite a while now. It's pretty much since Chandler Jones left. They've been looking for that quality edge rusher, and I think Will Anderson is the best pure edge rusher in this draft.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Honestly, I mean, I don't know how the Cardinals pass up on someone like Will Anderson. I mean, they could use some cornerback help. They since the Patrick Peterson era in the Arizona, they haven't had that true number one lockdown. I'm not throwing the ball to that side of the field corner, but I think it's hard to pass on a guy like Will Anderson, who, like you said, and he's a pure edge rusher. That's what he does. He gets to the quarterback.
I agree.
So with that being said, I think we staple Will Anderson into place here at pick number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals. And here's where it can get very interesting. Pick number 4, the Indianapolis Colts are on the clock. Uh, the Colts, as we know, they need a quarterback. Everyone knows that. They tried to float around with Matt Ryan. No knock to Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has had a fantastic career, but Matt Ryan is not the Matt Ryan from the Falcons.
No.
But who do they go with? I think Anthony Richardson. He made a case to be potentially the second best quarterback in the combine or in the draft, however you want to word it. But you do have C.J. Stroud. You have Will Levis. I mean, I'm torn. I do like Anthony Richardson. The Colts kind of turn the tide and get away from the pure pocket passer. Not saying that Andrew Luck wasn't mobile, but he wasn't Anthony Richardson. And the NFL, I think, is changing to the more mobile, get out of the pocket, read option type style plays that Anthony Richardson really fits the script on. What's your thoughts on pick number 4 here?
No, I like it, man. I think that I think it kind of boils down to a couple of things. Their GM, he'd said that they wanted a quarterback who was accurate and, just doing the coach speak thing. He's saying you want a quarterback that's accurate, a quarterback's going to win games, all that stuff. So when you think of accurate and win games, you think of C.J. Stroud. When you think of Steichen, who they got as their head coach now from Philadelphia, when you look at him, he's used to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is very accurate. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is he's used to that mobile quarterback that he can be creative with. So is it C.J. Stroud? Is it Anthony Richardson? I don't think you can go wrong with either one, man. I don't. I think Anthony Richardson will be a very good pick for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is with the combine this past weekend, Anthony Richardson showed that man. I mean, what did he run? A 4.40, and he set a record for broad jump. He set a record for vertical. I mean, the dude has all the talent in the world. He might be a little. Athlete. I mean, he might be a little raw. He might need some work. Every quarterback's going to miss throws. I mean, Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, misses throws. Has missed throws in his career. Can he be molded into something? I think he can. He's just that much of an athlete. He has arm strength. I mean, that deep ball he was throwing at the combine was just. It was beautiful. Me personally, I think that they go Anthony Richardson, especially with the point you made of their new head coach being so familiar with Jalen Hurts and just building a scheme around him, and that fits right back to him. So I think we lock Anthony Richardson into pick number 4, and we move on to the Seattle Seahawks. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Where do you think they go? Do they go offensive lineman? Do they go defensive lineman? Obviously, they got their corner in Woolen. I mean, that dude's an absolute monster. So I don't think they take a corner here, but I want to hear your thoughts on what you think they do in this number 5 spot.
Well, I think Seattle's in a very interesting situation. Like they got a top 5 pick. They don't need a whole lot necessarily, but you know, do you draft a Peter Skoronsky, a guy who I think that he could be a very good offensive tackle, but I think he could be a Zach Martin guy. When he came out of Notre Dame, he was kicked inside the guard. I think that Skoronsky can make the same transition seamlessly because his technique is perfect. So you
Right.
take Skoronsky with the intention of moving him to guard with you already got Charles Cross, you already got Abraham Lucas at the tackle position. So do you kick him inside, or do you go a Tyree Wilson? Is he going to be your Michael Bennett like the Seahawks used to have? Is he going to be a guy that you can play outside, kick inside? There's a lot of different avenues they could go with. They could go with potentially getting a quarterback. Do you get C.J. Stroud?
And put him behind
Um,
Gino. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And like, I want to touch on your Tyree Wilson. The big thing with Tyree Wilson is he, like you said, he has the size to play inside. He can move around that defensive line and kind of be a Swiss Army knife on that defensive line. So I mean, it, the Seahawks are in a very good position. I mean, they have DK Metcalf, they have their running back. Their defense is on the turn. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It does. I mean, I can't say it's not the Legion of Boom by any means, but I mean, they don't look
mhm.
bad. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn of where do they go. I mean, I feel that defenses in the Peter from Northwestern. I mean, that dude is he's incredible, honestly. I mean, his technique, like you just touched on it, it's flawless. His footwork is just it's insane. I mean, to me, I feel they just paid Gino at the time of doing this video. They paid Gino. So do they try and protect their investment with Gino, or do they try and bolster that defense? Because Gino did ball out last year. Gino carried that team damn good. I mean, I was very shocked with what Gino did last year with that team, and I mean, he proved that he can play. He can play with the best of them, and I mean, do they protect him or do they go defense and try and bolster that defense and have someone that is an edge setter that can move inside and stop the run? I mean, I want to leave this pick in your hands as far as where we lock it in. If they go offense, if they go defense, and that's kind of where I'm at with it because I think they can go either way.
Yeah, I love the position the Seattle Seahawks are in. I mean, they pretty much have the pick of the litter at this point. You want Christian Gonzalez, a big athletic corner that Pete Carroll loves. Do you want Brian Branch, a guy that you can move around, have him at safety, you put him at slot, you can move him all around. It's really tough. I think at the end of the day, I think that Seattle may go with Tyree Wilson.
All right, so that's what we'll do. We'll lock Tyree Wilson in there. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the players that we talked about. To be honest with you,
No.
I mean, you really can't. Moving on, the Detroit Lions. Man, does MCDC have that team rolling? Whew, Jared Goff revitalized. I don't know where he came from, to be honest with you, but that team is rolling. Their biggest problem, and I think it's sure-handed, is when you score 36 points a game and the other team scores 37. Um, so I think they got to be able to stop the ball. And it pains me to say it because I would love Pittsburgh to go after him, but I firmly believe the Detroit Lions. It's no shocker. They go cornerback, and they go with the best cornerback in the draft this year, and that's Christian Gonzalez. The man, if you watched any of the combine, the dude is just an athletic freak. His hip movement, his feet movement, the way he plays the ball, the way he plays the receiver. I mean, the dude is phenomenal. He's amazing, and there's no knock against Witherspoon or JPJ or any of the other cornerbacks in this, but I think that you have those corners and you have Chris Gonzalez on a pedestal on his own.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think if you're the Lions, they've been man, they've been looking for that corner for quite a while. You know, they had Darius Slay down there for a while, but I mean, they've been looking for secondary help for quite a while. I think you go with uh, Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is he's an absolute freak. He's got a year or two of good tape, and then prior to that, he was kind of average. But
Yep.
I think he matured, grew into his body, and just became a better ball player. And I think he's your pick.
I agree with that 100%. Now, honestly, I think this is the easiest pick for me, at least in the doing mock drafts, is Christian Gonzalez to the Lions, especially after seeing the combine. I honestly think that this is the easiest pick I am gonna have doing this entire thing throughout the entire draft. I mean, Christian Gonzalez is just sure he's a lock. I mean, the Lions, like I stated, they put up 35, a team scores 36. I mean, they need someone to be able to stop. And with Aiden Hutchinson on that defensive line, I think MCDC has this team going in the right direction here.
I agree.
So, moving on, I think this is where you start seeing some quarterbacks coming off the board pretty heavy. Obviously, we had two going the first four picks. So the Raiders, it's kind of one of them things of where do the Raiders go? Do they go Will Levis? Do they go C.J. Stroud? Because I do feel that the Falcons, the Panthers, I feel that these three teams coming up are teams that need quarterbacks, and I mean I think that getting that this is a no trade draft that we're doing, I feel that the Panthers are going to kind of be the odd man out because I don't think they're going to reach for a quarterback at the number 9 pick with Levis and Stroud coming off the board. It's just a matter of where do you think both these quarterbacks are going to go? Do you think Levis is going to go? Or maybe one of these teams shock the world and don't take a quarterback. Maybe the Falcons think Desmond Ritter is their guy and they ride Desmond Ritter and maybe Stroud or Levis fall to the Carolina Panthers. But right now, let's focus on the Raiders and where do we think they go with this system that they have? I mean, let's not forget Josh Jacobs, potential free agent, maybe have the franchise tag on him. Darren Waller, obviously still there. Devontae Adams, absolute dog on the outside. With the right quarterback, that team could be right back in the talks of being a half decent team.
No, I agree, man. Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. I think these next three picks really boil down to quarterback, and obviously, and in my opinion, I'm sure yours is there's only two quarterbacks worth taking this high. So I think that
Absolutely.
I think the Raiders. I think you go with C.J. Stroud. I like C.J. I think he has a lot of potential. A lot of these quarterbacks, they have a lot of their issues, that they need to work out. And C.J. Is he a product of Ohio State, or was he just another spoke in the wheel keeping the thing going? I mean, you had Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Jigba, and Buke, uh, DeJuan Jones, Luke Weipler,
Don't forget about
Paris Johnson,
don't you can't forget about
and
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. Exactly. So, are you a product of that offense, or are you just the piece that you just went along with it? Like you were there for the ride, man. And I think CJ has a lot of different traits that are very desirable in a quarterback. So I would go with CJ.
All right, so let's lock C.J. Stroud into the Oakland Raiders. Um, Moving on to the Falcons. This could be tricky, as I stated just a couple minutes ago. Do the Falcons think Ritter is their guy? Um, let's not forget that they traded their receiver to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Calvin Ridley, for gambling when he got caught gambling. They traded him to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So could they go? Could they shock everyone and go Quentin Johnston? Um, this team has some options here. Do they try and ride out Desmond Ritter? See, oh, you know what? Let's give him a shot. Let's put some pieces around him and give him a shot. Or do they just blow it all up and take someone like Will Levis? Um, I would really like to hear your thoughts because my thoughts, honestly, if I'm in the Falcons situation, I am going to take a chance and I'm going to pass on Will Levis. Nothing against Will Levis. He had a good combine. He had some poor throws. There's no doubt. I mean, there's no hiding. We've talked about this. I'm not a Will Levis fan. I don't think that he is this guy that everyone is saying that he is. But that's my opinion. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion. So I think that the Falcons ride it out and see and maybe take a Quentin Johnston. Uh, and give them that receiver position a huge boost because Quentin Johnston the dude's incredible from TCU, and I think that they could really use the offensive help. Kyle Pitts is down there drowning. He don't have nothing else. That's it. That's their offense. Kyle Pitts, and a one-dimensional offense is one of the easiest things to stop. I know, speaking from experience, being a Steeler fan, whenever you're running 14 screenplays a game and 13 end arounds, it's very easy to stop. So, with that being said, I mean, me personally, I like Quentin Johnson going to the Falcons. Them kind of shocking everyone, and but I want to know what your thoughts are, where they go. I mean, I know they're going to need an edge rusher. That's another big thing for that team is an edge rusher. Could they go? Could they go with someone on the edge like Lucas Van Ness? Is he that valuable to them? So let's hear your thoughts on it and hear your intake of what you think that they should do.
Yeah, man, I think the Falcons are another one of those teams that they need a few different parts. I feel like offensively, if you go with Will Levis in this situation, yeah, absolutely. If you want to go with Quentin Johnston, put him next to Drake London, get Kyle Pitts back healthy, you got a hell of a receiving core. You know, you got Tyler Allgeier in the back, you're handing him off the ball. I mean, offensive line's solid. Yeah, I think you can go any way you want with this pick, or you can jump over the defensive side of the ball. You get Nolan Smith, you get Miles Murphy, Van Ness. But yeah, I want to leave this one to you, man. But I think Quentin Johnston would be a very solid pick for the Falcons here.
Yeah, let's stick with it. Let's try and bolster that offense. Give some weapons to Ritter. Let's see what he can do. Honestly, I mean, what he only played what? I'm not sure how many games it was, but he didn't get to play till towards the end of the season. There, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was.
No, he didn't play much. Yeah, he didn't get much. He didn't get much lead.
So I mean, I'm going to let him ride, let him take the first team reps all training camp, and put another offensive weapon in Quentin Johnson next to him. Drake London, Quentin Johnson, Kyle Pitts. I mean, it could be dangerous. It could be definitely dangerous. So we're going to lock Quentin Johnson into that. Let's go on to the Carolina Panthers, who, to say the least, they need some pieces. They obviously got rid of Christian McCaffrey, gave him to a powerhouse in the 49ers. They tried their luck with Baker Mayfield. It didn't work out, obviously. They moved on from him. I think if Will Levis is on the board, which in this draft he is, I think they take a shot and they take Will Levis as their long-term quarterback. And I mean, I don't know if there's any other person that you can really put into that spot for the Carolina Panthers in a organization that I feel is kind of, I don't want to say drowning, but I mean, they're in rebuild mode, to say the least.
Right. No, I agree, man. I think, in this scenario with Will Levis being there, you got to go Will Levis. I hate to be so hard on the guy. He scares me a little bit. He's very erratic with his throws, his mechanics in the pocket and everything. He worries me. I think it's things that can be coached. Has a cannon for an arm. Don't believe me? Just ask him.
Absolutely.
But he throws a beautiful deep ball. I mean, he really does. It's those short, intermediate, across the middle, between the numbers type throws where I'm like, he kind of sails it. What are you getting with him? He's mobile. Like he's got a lot of qualities that you can like in him, and I get the appeal. But like I said, he scares me a little bit. But in this situation, I think the Carolina Panthers, you got to go with Will Levis.
And honestly, and to add a little bit to that, like him missing the intermediate throws and in between the numbers and so on and so forth. I mean, you talk about this all the time. I am by no means comparing him to any quarterback in the league that is amazing, but he kind of reminds me of a Josh Allen coming out of college. Josh Allen had them issues. He was overthrowing people constantly because of how big he was, and I kind of see that in Will Levis. And look where Josh Allen is now. They put him in a place where he got coached up, and I mean, Josh Allen's in the top quarterback talk in the league.
Yeah, I think he has all the physical traits. It's just being able to develop him similar to how the Bills did with Josh Allen, because Josh Allen did a complete 180. I mean, he from year one on, he made a complete, you know, just step in the right direction. I mean, hats off to Sean McDermott for getting him right. And if the Panthers can do that with Will Levis, then they got a franchise quarterback for sure.
I agree with that 100%. So we'll lock Will Levis in on this one. I'm going to give you this next pick at number 10, the Eagles. I'm going to give you the full reins. I want you to give me a rundown of what you think they're going to do, where they're at, and how they're going to handle their situation.
Man, I think the Eagles are another one. They have so many picks in this draft, and they're in such good position to where, you know, you got a top 10, and then, you know, you look at guys that are still on the board. I mean, I would almost have to say you go with Devon Witherspoon. I really like him a lot. He's very rangy. He gets a little handsy sometimes in coverage, but I think that's something to be coached out of him. Fast. He showed off good athleticism in the combine. Wasn't as tall as anticipated, but I don't think an inch really matters, you know, comparatively. But I think you go with Devon Witherspoon, but there's other guys there too that really got to prick your interest if you're the Eagles. You know, you're looking at a Skoronski for the same scenario we talked about earlier with him.
Yep.
You know, potentially going to the Seahawks. You kick him inside the guard, so on and so forth. Not going to get into that again. But I think too, you know, Kalijah Cansey's there. That defensive line's not getting any younger.
This is true.
An interior line.
They're losing. What's D tackle played for the Pittsburgh to free agent. They might lose.
Oh, Hargraves.
Yeah, Hargraves. He might be gone in free agency. So I mean, that you're 100% right. That might be another one of them situations of when free agency comes, this draft might change because depending on what happens, we might come back and do another non-trade draft, and we're like, okay, well, the Eagles did this in free agency, or they lost this in free agency, so it might change that pick a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to take in consideration there. I think that at the end of the day, I think the Philadelphia Eagles got to go with Devon Witherspoon. Sure up that secondary. Darius Slay's not getting any younger. I believe their other corner's a free agent, right?
Yeah,
I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I think they have a cornerback that is going into potential free agency this year.
It's James Bradbury, right? He's
yep.
a free agent.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Bradbury is a free agent going into this next season.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think you go with Devon Witherspoon. You go with, you know, the 1A, 1B cornerback between him and Christian Gonzalez. I think you get a really valuable piece to that Eagles team.
I mean, me personally, every mock draft I've done, I have Devon going into Philly at number 10. I mean, I don't know if there's. I do see your point on other pieces. This is like the sure-handed. You potentially might lose some corners and or not corners. Sorry, that shouldn't have been plural, but you might lose a corner. And why not? Your offense is absolutely stacked. I don't think you need an offensive piece. Defensively, as we've seen in the Super Bowl, they couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes in the second quarter. They could definitely put up the points with them, but it came down to their defense making a stop, and they just couldn't do it. So I definitely agree with Devon Witherspoon being that piece that they drafted number 10. I do want to point out, like I said, we're using PFF Draft Simulator, and PFF says that the Eagles need a receiver. I don't know if A.J. Brown disappeared from the Eagles. To my knowledge, he's still there. And Devonta just said fuck it and left. But apparently PFF thinks they need a receiver. I just want to put that in a little side note there because I thought it was kind of funny. Moving on to the 11th pick, the Tennessee Titans. Another team that there's some buzz talking about trading Derrick Henry. We kind of touched base on this, just BSing amongst each other. Are they trying to sell high right now because he is King Henry? There's no doubt. King Henry is an absolute monster, but last year he had some injuries. As he's starting his decline. I mean, the dude still rushed for an absurd amount of yards last year. Nothing changed from the year prior. And or the year prior to that, I mean, the dude's a dog. He's impossible to tackle with one person. But with the Titans, are they going? You know what? Let's just go into rebuild mode. Let's revamp this roster, and let's start. Me personally, I think they start on the offensive side of the ball. Um, the receiver draft class this year is, I mean, it's heavy. Same with cornerbacks. I think that the Titans take a receiver in this. Give Malik Willis someone to throw to. You drafted Malik Willis and you traded AJ Brown all in the same year. Malik Willis kind of set up for failure. I did think that Malik was raw. I didn't think that he was a sure day one starter by any means. But I think the more he gets to those first team reps, and as long as he can stay healthy, I think Malik Willis could be one of them players that he's just fun to watch. He's an athlete. He has a cannon of an arm. He's fast. He's hard to bring down. I think, me personally, I think they go receiver. I think that you're in agreement they go receiver in this position. As far as which receiver, I want to leave that into your hands on which receiver you think they go with. And if you don't think they go receiver, if they go maybe tackle, if they go with that tackle, Skowarski, because that's another pick they go. Do they protect Malik or do they move him inside? I know we keep saying that, but I mean, that's a very possibility with him. He's very versatile. I want to kind of hear your insight on if you think they are sure-handed at receiver, or if you do think they try to get someone to protect Malik in the passing game.
Yeah, I think you go with receiver or offensive tackle. I think that in this case you could go edge rusher, but I think you're trying to get that offense right. So you go with a Jordan Addison, a Paris Johnson out of Ohio State. If you want a receiver, offensive tackle, what have you. But yeah, I don't think either way you could go wrong. I know that Jordan Addison's getting a lot of flack for his 40 time because he's a smaller guy, and I never really got the concept that he was an absolute burner. Like to me, he's like Devontae Smith. He gets separation, but he's not lightning fast.
Right.
And he's small, but he high points the ball. I mean, he does everything you want in a wide receiver. It's just, Devontae Smith's problem. He's just small.
Yes, and and honestly, he plays bigger than what he is, and I think he plays faster than what he actually is. Like what his 40 time says. His game speed's a lot faster than the straight line speed, I feel.
I agree. Yeah, if I'm the Titans, then I would go with him, Zay Flowers, and then Jigba. But in this scenario, I think I'm going to go with Jordan Addison.
I like that. I actually had the Titans going with Zay Flowers in this position, but I do like what you're saying in Jordan Addison. I mean, we're talking about Jordan Addison, who was at Pitt and was arguably the best receiver in the NCAA with Kenny Pickett at the helm, and he then transferred to USC. Was it the system? I'm not sure. I thought he would excel more at USC than he did at Pitt, but I do like Jordan Addison. I think Jordan Addison is a very well-rounded receiver. I think Njigba might be the best other than Quentin Johnson. Sure-handed. He makes every catch. He has very amazing body control. Everything you could possibly think of in a receiver with Njigba. But I do like Jordan Addison as a playmaker with the Titans and Malik Willis in that offense. So let's lock Jordan Addison in on the pick number 11. I kind of took over the Bryce Young Texans pick. So with the pick number at number 2, so with number 12, I want you to take over the Texans' second pick in the first 12 picks and see what your thoughts and where you're at with the Texans picking at number 12.
Yeah, Texans kind of got the riches of the draft, and it's kind of their own detriment in a way. But you trade away your star quarterback, you got a haul for him more than what he's worth.
Yes.
I like Deshaun Watson, but in
Yes.
the situation he was in here, like that whole thing, you got a lot for him. So that worked out great for the Texans. The Texans, you go ahead and you get your quarterback, you get Bryce Young. So do you go and look at receivers, or do you look at the defensive line? You know, I personally I like Elijah Cansey out of Pittsburgh. I kind of like him with this pick. Or do you pair him with another? Do you pair Bryce Young with another receiver to, kind of grow with? What do
Who
you
does the
think?
Texans have at receiver right now?
Well, right now they have Brandon Cooks, and
Well,
from
we know
what I've
that
heard,
situation.
he doesn't want to be there. Yeah,
Yes.
he kind of wants out, and God knows I don't blame him. But he kind of wants out. But they have Nico Collins, who's a young receiver,
Yeah,
came
he
out
is
last
young.
year.
Yep. Like,
So they have stuff there. But if they lose Brandon Cooks, you almost have to go with like a Zay Flowers, a guy who him and Jordan Addison for me just they flip flop one another. I love Zay Flowers.
I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, and that's man, and that's where I'm kind of at. I mean, do you protect your investment in Bryce Young and go with a Paris Johnson? Um, do you just say Bryce Young, look, this is what we're gonna do. We got you at 2. We're gonna give you some protection, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I think there's going to be growing pains with the Texans. I don't think getting Bryce Young and let's just say Zay Flowers, I don't think that makes them a playoff contender or a major threat. Uh, I could be
No.
wrong, but I mean, I just don't see it. That defense needs work. Their offensive line needs some work. I mean, there's a lot of pieces that the Texans are missing, which they seem to be. They can't put it all together at the right time. I mean, they've had J.J. Watt, they've had Davian Clowney, they've had DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, they've had these pieces, but all in separate times. Um, do you protect your investment with Bryce Young? I feel I know what I would do personally. I would try and protect him, and I think I would go with like a Paris Johnson. I mean, Paris Johnson, I think, is the best true tackle in this draft. The dude's a absolute monster.
Hmm.
You could go defense, uh, but I think that you need to help your offense more. You could go. I do like. Man, I don't know. I I think I think the move is you go and protect your investment. But I do like how you said, do you give Bryce Young that receiver to grow with? Just for the sheer fact, I mean, this is a very early draft. Free
Hmm.
agency is going to change all this.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Free agency is going to change all of this.
yeah, like this whole draft board could be completely exploded whenever free agency hits. Teams could go. The Texans could go out. I'm not sure what their cap space is like, and that's one thing that we'll dive into and look at teams' cap spaces and potential free agency signings with this whole draft cast. But I right now with a no trade, I think I think I'm going to lean on a receiver that they grow with. I do like that. Give Bryce Young someone that he can spend at least the next 4 years with. At bare minimum, he's going to spend the next 4 years with. I think that will give him the growth and the confidence going into an organization that isn't kind of in rebuild mode. And I mean, it could be the perfect storm. They might go out and light it up, and they just outscore every opponent they play, because obviously their defense is a little shaky, to say the least. But they do have a couple pieces over there. So I think we lock in Zay Flowers here. I mean, I'm a huge Zay Flowers fan. The dude had, I mean, the dude's just incredible. He does
He's so fun
everything.
to watch.
He's electric. He does everything you want a receiver to do. He's just he's a fun player to watch. So we're gonna lock Zay into this position. And moving on to the 13th pick in the Jets. Once again, free agency plays a big part in this. The big talk. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Aaron Rodgers. What does Aaron Rodgers do? Does he go to the Jets? Does he follow like what Brett Favre did? Does he stay a Packer? Does he retire? There's a lot of pieces here that are you don't know the answer to. So with the Jets, obviously, I don't think that they're reaching for a quarterback at 13. I don't think there's any quarterback on the board that fits that bill of, you know what, we got to have him at 13. So I do feel that if they are going, they need some pieces. That's for damn sure. Um, do they go tackle? Is this where you see your tackle come off the board? I do like for them to get a tackle and potentially fill that void. Um, do they go with a linebacker? But to me personally, I don't think that there's a linebacker that is locked in high enough to take at 13. I feel that you'd be a fool to pass up on someone like Paris Johnson, and that's just my personal
Mm-hmm.
opinion. I think that they have to go tackle here. It is a need. Whether it doesn't matter who's at quarterback for that team, you get someone like Paris Johnson that could staple your tackle position for years to come. I want to hear your feedback, your input on where you think the Jets should go as far as offense, defense, what have you.
No, I definitely I agree with that pick 100%. I think that Mekhi Becton is a guy that they drafted a couple years ago. Unbelievable potential. Hasn't really lived up to it. Unfortunately, he showed up last year overweight. Finished the last 2 years injured. Just hasn't really been the same since his rookie season. I think you need to get a little more consistency out of the offensive line, and I think it starts with Paris Johnson.
I agree with that. There's not much to talk about there. I think we just locked Paris Johnson in at that spot. The Patriots are up next on the board at 14. Um, there's some talks about the Patriots might be looking to move Mac Jones. Um, kind of surprising. Bama boy, Bama product. I like Mac Jones. But there's some rifts in that organization. That Bailey Zappi's just as good as Mac Jones. Like I said, we're no professional by any means. This is just reports that we've read. But I think, me personally, with Skrinorski still on the board, I think he is a Bill Belichick kind of guy.
Yes.
I don't see any other route to go with the Patriots. They have 72 tight ends. I mean, I kind of want to fucking take a tight end just to be funny, because Bill Belichick went out and got all these tight ends, and neither of them did anything. But that's besides the point. But I think that old Pete Boy from Northwestern, I think that he's a Bill Belichick kind of guy. He's versatile. Bill will use him to his maximum capability and ability. I think we've had this talk before. I think there's not much to say with that pick other than him going to the Patriots.
No, I agree, man. I think Trent Brown, he filled in last year. Wynn was hurt all year, and Trent Brown filled in a left tackle. Trent Brown, he can play left tackle and he can do it well, but he's more of a right tackle. You get Skoronski kicking to the left side. I believe Wynn's a free agent this year. That gets you your replacement. Peter Skoronski he's gonna lock down that left side, similar to Matt Light from years ago. I think it's a really good pick. I think that's who New England's going with.
We're gonna lock Peter in there. I'm gonna let you run wild with the Green Bay Packers. I know what we all want them to draft. The same thing we've wanted them to draft for the past years. I'm gonna let you run wild with this one and give me your lock in. I think we're both on the same page, but you give me your lock in, and I'll give you my thoughts on it.
Well, the Green Bay Packers, in theory, should draft a wide receiver. I think it really boils down to at this point with Flowers and Addison and Johnson being off the board. I think it pretty much boils down to either JSN or Jalen Hyatt. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Both are entirely different players. JSN is a guy that he's an Amon-Ra St. Brown guy. He's crispy route runner, always open. Jalen Hyatt, I mean, good luck keeping up with him. He's a deep threat all day long. But the Packers, who they should pick, in my opinion, is a wide receiver. It just boils down to which one. of the two. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the way I'm looking at it is JSN. Um, you have, like you said, the dude's route running is incredible. His hands are incredible. He gets separation with any combination he's in, whether it's a drag, whether it's a slant, a post, an out route. It doesn't matter. I mean, the dude's route running is so crispy. And then you have Jalen Hyatt, who is uh, the dude is blazing, absolutely blazing fast. But the way I'm going to lean more towards Jackson, just for the sheer fact that they have Christian Gonzalez, or not Christian Gonzalez. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. What's the receiver's name?
Christian Watson.
Christian Watson. Christian Watson proved last year that he came on strong. He came on that first week whenever he dropped that wide open pass for a touchdown. Christian Watson made it a point to let people know that he's here and he's going to take the top off the defense, and that's exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they do go with JSN, and they have that sure-handed, that crispy route running in JSN, and then they have that deep threat, and they whether it's Jordan Love or it's time or if it's Aaron Rodgers, I think that you can't go wrong with another weapon to help either one of them quarterbacks there. So I think we're going to lock in JSN and on the 15th pick and move on to the Washington Commanders, which the Commanders could be interesting. To me, as long as that defensive line is healthy, it's one of the scariest defensive lines in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback, they obviously need a quarterback. Cutting Carson Wentz. I don't know how they feel about their other quarterbacks. I know they had some ups, they had some downs, so on and so forth. But that secondary, man, that the secondary's kind of atrocious. It's blue bin, if to say the least. I'm not a big fan of their secondary. Obviously, everyone knows their receiving core. The receiving core is disgusting. I think someone like a Brian Branch could end up going at 16 to the Washington Commanders. I think that could be a huge fit, a huge upgrade to say the least. Because I think of Brian Branch of like a Minka Fitzpatrick. You can kind of cheat as a corner when you're not that great at corner. And it's funny that we're sitting here talking about players like we're professional athletes, which we're not. I would get torched by every single player in this draft. Doesn't matter what position they play. But we say they're not great at their position, but their corners can kind of cheat, and they have that safety blanket over the top in Brian Branch, kind of like a Minka Fitzpatrick. Like I said, I hate the comparisons of players and coming into the draft and comparing someone to someone as good as Minka, but it's just a little insight of what you're looking at and why we're picking this pick and why we think that this pick. But I really like Brian Branch at this pick. They could go maybe a linebacker, but I don't feel that. Me personally, and I don't think a linebacker at this position. I think they have more of a need at a safety or maybe an offensive lineman. But I don't feel. There's amazing offensive linemen in this draft, but they need more of an interior offensive lineman than they do exterior, like the outside in tackles. What's your thoughts on maybe a Brian Branch in this position, or maybe even someone else, maybe even a corner? Because we still are heavy on cornerbacks in this draft.
No, I'm with you, man. I think Brian Branch as well. Same reasons. Once again, hate doing comparisons, but he just has that Minka Fitzpatrick chess piece. You can move him all around. He can cover the slot. He can go back deep. I believe he had he isn't just a ball hawk either. He's not just a coverage guy. I think he had it was like a 91 or 92 tackle grade, which is absurd.
Yeah, he had
he led college football.
Yes.
Not safeties, college football. He led the entire NCAA, which is absurd.
Especially for safety. And in a league that, nowadays players are running. You have 240-pound people that are running 4.4s, 4.5s, and it's just absurd. And you have a safety, like you said. a 92 tackle grade as a safety, leading the NCAA in tackle grade. I mean, it's pretty astonishing and pretty impressive for someone to accomplish that, especially at the safety position.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not like he played for like a Division II school or something like that, or he was he played for Alabama. I mean, you're playing against the top teams in the NCAA. You're in the best college division. So I think his resume speaks for itself. Obviously with him being a safety, it's so hard to you want to put him earlier because how talented he is, but I think Washington they would be dumb to pass on him if he's there.
I agree with that 100%. And so we'll lock in the Washington Commanders with Brian Branch, and that rounds out our top 16 draft picks. Um, we would love to have your feedback on all of this. This is, like I said, we're not professionals. This is where we feel that the best fit is the best pick for each team. This could all get imploded come free agency time, but I think that this is and to our ability and our research and our knowledge, I think this is a very good start to the top 16. Um, any closing thoughts or concerns or anything you want to put in there, Steven?
Um, no, no, not really. No, I think it went pretty well.
All right, with that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to BS Draftcast, and we will catch you on the next one.